Well, speaking of simple wrestling, I have an email about one of the simplest, not rules, but one of the simplest maneuvers or things in all of wrestling, the tag. And I'd like to read that. Oh, and by the way, and there's a preface first. Also an answer to a question. This is from Robert in Wasco, California. Because, dear Jim and Brian, you asked the question about how much wrestling, my way of distinguishing pro from amateur wrestling, both of which I enjoy very much, how much wrestling experience Ronda Rousey had her first time around. The following information comes from the Internet Wrestling Database. So apparently, because we said, did they expose her this bad before in the first run? Did they leave her twisting in the wind on promos or in battle royals where she didn't know what to fucking do? It seems like she's being exposed as greener and more inexperienced now than we had seen her before. Apparently, this is a grand total of all the pro wrestling matches Ronda Rousey has had to date. In that previous run, she wrestled on Raw 18 times. She wrestled on pay-per-view 11 times, MSG shows twice, and one tribute to the troops. Between April 8th, 2018 and April 7th, 2019.
That's 32.
She had 32 matches in 1 year and then took 3 years off. So no wonder, but I think they hit it better before. But anyway, Robert continues on a separate matter. I have often heard you decry tag teams making tags which are not proper, correct legal tags. Could you please clarify for us precisely what constitutes a valid tag? Is it any part of the arm up to and including the top of the deltoid? Is it any part of the arm below the deltoid or perhaps the elbow? Also, can any surface of the hand arm be tagged or only the outer or upper or some other part of same? I always understood it was any part below the deltoid, but I could be wrong. It wouldn't be the first or probably the last time. Thank you for your expert analysis and explanations. We have come to the point of time in the wrestling business where we have to explain not only to the fans and to the wrestlers how the fuck you're supposed to make a tag. It's that sad, Brian. And I'm not even talking about the hot tag now, because nobody can get that. I'm talking about just a fucking tag. And it's not that difficult. And this was, if people say, well, you make this shit up, Cornette, or how it hadn't been that way. I watched wrestling 20 years ago and pay. Well, I'm not saying that people haven't been fucking this up for 20 years. But the way that you understood this during the old days, the territory days, when everybody watched wrestling and everybody was a wrestling fan all over the country and all different parts of all the different territories, some places cared more, some cared less, some beat rules into your head more, and some, there weren't a lot of rules in Detroit when the Sheik was in charge because that was his kind of thing. But generally, you would pick up on these things if you were a regular watcher of the 1 hour of television wrestling a week you got on TV, and especially if you went to the live matches every week or every 2 weeks or every month in your town, because every town had them. It wouldn't take you long to pick up on this because it would just be little spots in matches or little things the announcers would say. A legal tag is simply this. When the guy on the apron waiting to be tagged into the match has both feet on the apron, he's either holding the tag team rope or touching the top turnbuckle with one hand, and he's reaching over the top rope, and you tag hand to hand. That's it. And the reason for those things is you got to have both feet on the apron because heels would often, in trying to reach and fucking cheat, stand up on the bottom rope and lean over to get a better reach. And the referee would go over and point to them and make them get down. And the announcer would just one throwaway line. He's making Brian Last get back down on the apron. You can't tag unless your feet are on the apron, and go right on. Or another time, a heel would be trying to bend when another heel was working toward the corner for the tag, a heel would try to cheat by bending under the rope and where you get more reach and trying to tag that way, and the referee would come over and block it and disallow it and show you have to reach over the top rope. And every once in a while, one of the baby faces, when the heels were getting heat on his partner, one of the baby faces would leave the corner and would work his way while he's clapping and cheering for his partner. He'd work his way kind of down to the middle of the ring and be reaching over the top for a tag there, and the referee would just walk around and grab him and walk him back to the corner and make him put his hand on the turnbuckle or grab the tag rope. And to go right back, and that instantly, and if you did that once in a while, people picked up on it, and then you saw nobody making bullshit tags. There was no backslap tag. Sometimes the heels would even try to tag the foot to get heat, right? And start to come in, and the referee go, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, I tagged you, tagged his foot, idiot. Get out of here. But again, there were no backslap tags. There weren't any tags of the toe. There weren't double tags where you got a 6-man tag and you tag one guy in and then he turns around and tags the other guy. And here's another rule that nobody pays any attention to anymore. You used to have to make contact. When a guy was tagged in, he couldn't turn around without touching anybody and tag right out. He had to make contact with his opponent before he could tag out again. And then when a heel got tagged in against a babyface he didn't want to fucking touch, he'd jump out and the referee would count to get him back in. It would get the people involved, where they'd be screaming at him, get back in the ring. And then he would duck and dodge away from the guy, but the guy was closing in on him, and somehow the guy would grab him, but he'd come out of it and dive and make a tag, and he'd get a ton of heat because he's a chicken shit. But now they can just turn around and tag back out and jump in. So those are really the only rules surrounding tagging, but it made it an art if you did it all right, especially the blind tags. The heels taking advantage of the rules, but still attacking somebody from behind or 2-on-1. And the fans understood it because they had seen it and it was clarified for them. And now it's chaos in the project pit. And nobody understands anything. And they're just making the shit up as they go along, and there's no art to it and no difficulty to it. And somebody will go back and they will see a Rock and Roll Express match, and some baby faces did this. Tag teams, the guy on the apron, it was a bad habit that a lot of tag teams did. Even the Midnight did it. For Bobby Eaton did, everybody did it. When you're standing there on the apron, you would have your right leg lopped over the middle rope and put your foot on the bottom rope, because that's kind of like a resting position, right? You've seen that, Brian, where they have the leg over the bottom or the middle rope.
Yeah.
Well, Robert Gibson would take tags like that and come in like that because Robert's legs were so long that sometimes he had trouble smoothly navigating his way off the apron into the ring. So to give him about a half a second head start, he'd have that leg over the rope already, and when he took the tag, and the referees would allow it, because if some other jabronis did it, they'd probably yell at him in the locker room, but since the Rock and Roll Express were selling out everything everywhere and making a ton of money for everybody, they let him do it. But that technically isn't legal either. But is that difficult? Why is it so difficult?
Because who's teaching it? And who's enforcing it?
Goddamn, in 5 minutes, nobody's enforcing it, but I just told him in 5 minutes or less the fucking deal, and it's not like it's hard to remember.
Okay, and the kid that's coming out of some jerk-off wrestling school in some random place, you think he's being taught any of that?
No.
And they're all coming out of jerk-off wrestling schools in random places nowadays. There's the problem.
But anyway, that's why I get upset, because it's not that hard. It's a simple fucking rule. Every sport has rules, and when you follow them, it makes it look like a little bit more difficult of an endeavor that requires professionals to do, rather than just, we'll just make this shit up. And act like we're playing in the playground. But sometimes, Brian, I think that instead of a wrestling school, they just need somebody to talk to, these modern wrestlers. Somebody to bounce some ideas off of, somebody with a level head to say, I don't know what you're thinking, but you need to think again. What do you think?
It's a good idea.
Well, I guess they could call BetterHelp. Folks, if you need somebody to talk to bounce something off of, just to tell them what you're thinking or plotting or planning and get a different grown adult's opinion on it, or possibly some input on how to help you sort through your feelings, the folks at BetterHelp can do all those things. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist that you can start communicating with in under 48 hours because it's professional therapy done securely online, not in person. They've got a broad range of expertise, which may not even be locally available in many of your areas, but this service is available for clients worldwide. With an account you can log into, send messages to your therapist, and schedule weekly video and phone sessions. If you have a crazy idea about a brand new way to tag your partner, run it by a grown adult first, or anything else that's preventing you from achieving your goals or interfering with your happiness. And right now, folks, you can visit their website and read the testimonials that are posted daily. Go to BetterHelp, that's H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/JCE, and join the over 2 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional, and get 10% off your first month's services at the same time. Just an offer for our listeners, betterhelp.com/JCE, 10% off your first month's services. We should have had some type of counseling available at wrestling school to the young wrestlers who are confused and conflicted about all the different things that they're hearing and the conflicting lessons that they are being taught. So BetterHelp maybe could be the official phone line of all young wrestlers trying to figure out what the heck are the rules of this sport anyway.
BetterHelp.
BetterHelp.
That's right.
You better help.
Someone better help this show.
Oh, for heaven's sake, is it that bad?